Gentleman Steel.
And I'm Moby.
And I'm Marty.
Hey, listener. How's it going? We hope you enjoyed our latest bonus episode.
It was about it.
I hope you listened to it. I mean, listen to our shit. I don't know why you're listening to this and not everything else.
Yeah, we don't want what happened to our last bonus episode where everyone gave up on it halfway through. So
yeah.
That was weird.
Nobody likes Fiasco Act 2, obviously.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's lead off with our usual banter.
It is time for the banter segment. Well, I'll just jump in real quick. So because of our podcast, Nintendo has now decided to release additional units of the SNES Classic.
Yeah, pretty exciting.
As well as bringing back the NES Classic next summer. So thanks, T-Hud Podcast.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I mean, that's huge cultural influence we have.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
We tell 20 people, they tell 20 people, and so forth.
Well, I mean, when you've got 17 listener, but they include President Trump and Shigeru Miyamoto, you have some real influence.
Oh, okay. We got all the bases covered.
As long as Kevin Sorbo stays away.
See, Trump thought T-Hud was Trump Hud, his own neighborhood.
Thought it was one of his towers.
And then he started listening and he just couldn't give up. You know?
Well, he probably can't read.
Oh, man. Let's shy away from... This is why we don't do politics, gentlemen. Come on.
I said probably.
Allegedly.
Sorry, that's the word I was
Yes,
looking for.
allegedly.
In all seriousness, I'm really stoked about the SNES coming out more. As you know, Marty and I were very disappointed. But it's also the only way that you're going to really break these speculation bots is you've got to flood the market. And then all of a sudden, all those, units that the bots buy aren't worth it anymore.
They actually shortened that term to spots. Just
Spots.
FYI.
Really? Is that serious?
Sure.
Okay. Spots, all right.
Sure.
I'll go with it.
All right.
All right. That was it
That
for
was
me.
it?
On to the next part of the
This is Banter Segment Part 2.
I've got a little thing movie related here. I just want to talk really quickly about Colin Trevorrow being fired from Star Wars Episode 9 in his replacement with J.J. Abrams.
Yeah, but man, they've been rotating directors and producers on that fucking thing all for the last 3 months.
Well, yeah, that's the problem. When you look at
it is a problem.
it's a major problem. And this is foreshadowing a bit because, within a few episodes we're going to dive into it. But when you look at what's happened so far, I mean, basically half the movies you've had directors replaced or shunted out at the end. Even Rogue One, Gareth Edwards was knocked out for extensive reshoots, which I think was Tony Gilroy ended up doing. And this shows a level of dysfunction. I have a theory on where the dysfunction is.
I want to hear it.
It's a double-edged sword. So you've got Kathleen Kennedy, who is running Lucasfilm, and what she's trying to do is hire all these young, avant-garde, very kind of youthful and fresh directors, but as soon as she hires them, she wants them to do a very conservative Star Wars movie that's fan-pleasing and doesn't, work outside the lines. And you can't do that. Something's got to break. You're telling the left hand to do, something that the right hand doesn't know. It doesn't make any sense. And that's what I think's been happening. So,
yeah, I agree. I think the best thing they could do for the franchise is go outside the box if they want to keep going past these next 3 trilogy films. And otherwise, you're going to give us just a Star Wars bread and butter. We're going to go see it because we go see everything.
Sure, and they're going to make their money no matter what they put out.
But we're not going to see every film in that extended universe if
that's the thing. That's the thing.
Any
all those little
hook.
one-shot offshoots that they do. Yeah, if your main flagship is not great, you're not going to draw audiences for those other ones.
I am seriously concerned where the main trilogy is going. Some artwork came out for Episode 8, and it's basically a new Super Star Destroyer and a new ET-AT Walker, which is exactly the 2 main vessels and vehicles that were used in Empire Strikes Back. And even in the first trailer for Episode 8, you see it's not snow, it's a white salt flat, but you see these small ground-skimming vehicles heading out to a force of AT-ATs to fight them. And I kind of facepalmed right there. Yeah. I was willing to extend Episode 7 some slack in having a lot of echoes.
It was a non-reboot reboot.
Exactly. But because it had been all these years and it needed to set the prequels right.
Sure.
That's
Totally,
okay.
Totally.
But when you do that to episode 8 and you bring JJ back for episode 9, who is a very conservative director and I think might copy Return of the Jedi, that's a problem. One guy, and he explained it pretty well, that makes me think it's true. He's a guy who says he has a friend that's working on episode 8. There's a shot in the episode 8 trailer where you see Finn and looks like he's sleeping and there's some transparent plastic. He says that this is almost exactly what happened to Harrison Ford, Han Solo, in the Carbonite, is that Finn is going to get trapped in this stasis unit and they've got to rescue him in episode 9.
Man.
And he said that's what that is.
That
garbage. Is ridiculous. If they do that is ridiculous.
So that's going to happen at the end of the movie.
At the end of the movie, and episode 9 starts with them.
Wow. Oh,
from
man,
a
that's
stasis
bad.
unit.
That's bad.
That is bad. Because I would be completely okay with this film being very dark compared to the last film, but I'm not okay with them retreading all the same ground.
Yeah. So do you think, though, the studio is like, they're trapped in their own lore? Like how cyclical the Force really is? You know, like they're always like, what has happened before will happen again. It always happens, you know?
I think they misread the fans. I think that, for whatever you want to say about George Lucas's prequels, they did not copy his original story.
Totally.
And fans rebelled. And I don't know if Lucasfilm actually understands why the fans were rebelling. It wasn't Lucas's overall story. Like, they didn't want a copy of the original Star Wars trilogy. What they wanted was just better acting and cooler characters and better dialogue. And I think maybe that Lucasfilm has really, really misunderstood what the fans are looking for. They're not looking for a literal copy of the first trilogy, with new characters. So,
well, I will say, from my perspective, I like these films, but I'm not a big Star Wars guy.
I don't give two fucking shits about Star Wars.
So
but I go see every movie.
There's very little nostalgia tying me to anything here. You know, if anything, that holds me back from enjoying it.
Yeah. Moby's probably the only true fan of this group. I am a hardcore Star Wars fan, I'll admit it. But for now, that's all I've got to say on the topic.
Well, continuing with movie though, I wanted to talk about the newest shots of Hellboy. Of what's his name?
David Harbour.
Oh,
Harbour.
Not David Tennant.
Harbour, Harbour. Man, he looks good.
Yeah.
Holy shit. I'm going to put those up in the show notes, links to some of those. But man, he looks good. He's a fucking beast.
Yeah. Yeah, he looks really good. And, Hellboy 1, I thought it was okay. I really liked Hellboy 2.
Yeah.
So that's
the Golden Army or whatever the hell it was called.
Yeah, that was a great film.
It was good. And I think this new Hellboy is going to be R-rated as well.
Ooh.
Yeah. So, and you can just even tell in the pictures that they released how gruffled he is. And I hate using, the gritty. I hate using the term gritty when you're talking about...
So you used gruffled instead?
Well, I think there's a little
It's like my mom said.
But I think the term, they're doing a gritty reboot has serious negative connotations. And I don't know what this is story-wise. I guess it must be a rebootish, right? It has to be rebooted.
I guess.
Just by the definition of the new direction they're taking it, it must be a reboot, right?
I would imagine.
Well, man, I'm super excited for it. Those pictures look great. He looks fantastic.
Is that next year? Did it come?
I think it's 2019. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. But man, he looks good. He looks exactly like Perlman did. Like,
he does.
And you know what? Though I think that's a testament to how accurately they portrayed Hellboy in Perlman version, right? Like that. He doesn't look like Pearl, just Perlman looks like Hellboy, and so does Harbour.
Well, yeah, the only difference is they didn't actually have to do any special effects with Perlman.
Yeah, his face is already fucked up.
They just painted him red.
Yeah, that's right. And I also like he's not like, just, I don't know, it's just, man, he looks so good. Like, even just down to the shade of red, and he looks like he looks like he's from hell. Looks so good. Oh, man.
But he doesn't look like a boy.
Jazzed.
And that's confusing.
Oh, you're right. Oh, that's.
Why don't they just call him Hellman?
You know what? I give it a 6.5 out of 10. 6.5.
I give it an 8.5.
Of course you do.
I give it 3 shaved horns out of 4.
Whoa!
Hey, it's just an image. It's just an image, man.
All right. Fuck. Okay, so this episode, there's no crazy about cardboard segment because we think one of our other ones is going to run a little long. So, but I did want to talk about a game that we actually just played pre-recording, The Networks. And so I want to get your guys' first impressions. What do you guys think of it?
I won.
Yeah, you fucking killed us.
Suck a dick.
I liked it. I felt that, it was original. It didn't kind of remind me the mechanics of any game I'd played previously. I liked the strategy in that, you wanted to buy all this stuff or take all these cards, like advertisements and different stars and whatnot. But the game gives you a big bonus if you cash out first, meaning if you kind of close in budget, you get either a lot of money or later on you can choose to take a lot of viewers, which are your points.
Yeah.
But in return for doing that, you can't do anything else for the rest of the round. So there's a lot of strategy. Marty really kind of pulled ahead early on because he cashed out early, I think.
He kept pulling ahead. No, I don't think so. I don't know what the hell you were doing, man, but you were just pulling ahead a lot.
I think my strategy for the most part was trying to stay with you guys most of the way. I knew I wasn't going to be super far ahead in the beginning, but I had a lot of money pooled for that last little bit to get a lot of
so you could
actors and kind of do what I
you could afford to take more of those costly actions without worrying about getting the money from cashing out, because when you close and budget, you get a certain amount of money depending on your turn order of closing. If you close first, you get the most, and then it decreases, right? It's a very common mechanic in a lot of games where you're just rotating around the table, taking a single action, and then those actions make up an overall round. Yeah.
I was also very well set up for the last round where you take 2 rounds worth of points.
Oh yeah, at the very end,
that's what I was really
double score
your
your shows. You came up with 50 viewers just from aging your shows and then scoring them. You got another 50 viewers on top. That's what sealed it for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I enjoyed it. Yeah. It actually has a solo variant, which I'm gonna try and see how it is, which is nice. We don't get together to play games all that often, so having a solo option works for me. I like it. I'll play it again for sure.
I play with myself once in a while too.
Ooh, I love that solo action.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. I'd definitely be willing to give it another shot and hopefully get a quicker start. But
there's actually an expansion on Kickstarter right now. It's called The Executives, I think. I don't know. I'll link it in the show notes too, in case anybody wants. I'm not sure when it ends compared to when it actually might be over by the time this airs, but if it isn't, I'll put up the link. I think I'm going to check it out. I'm going to dive in and see what it is now that I've played the base game. That's one criticism a lot of people have. You see all the cards. You basically saw all the cards. Right. So that cool, that funny, this show is referencing that, or communisty, instead of community, that kind of shit. You see it all, right? So I think an expansion, definitely would help increase replayability for sure.
Sure.
Okay, so what do you want to move on to? Our actual, our big topic?
We'll move on to the segue segment, and then we'll move into the actual segment.
Oh, okay, good.
All right, let's segue into Geek is Good, which is going to be just a general discussion topic. And I've hid my notes, so I actually have to flip to what I was going to say.
Okay, now he's just put on a show. I think I'll leave this in.
I've got it. So, this was kind of actually suggested by Moby, and it was going to be a discussion.
Oh, it must be a bad suggestion, though.
Oh, fuck you, Lee.
This topic's going to be terrible. Hey, okay, that's one more thing we haven't talked about, is the explicit language. You guys use way too much of it. I think it offends some listener.
Then they're listening to the wrong podcast.
I'm just throwing it out there.
Are you fracking kidding me?
Are you? Yeah. See, because, all right.
Wait, someone was offended by our language?
No, I don't know. It's, the explicit tag isn't for everybody. That's all.
Right, okay.
Well, our podcast isn't for anybody, so I'm not seeing the problem here, Leland.
All right, sorry. I just thought I'd mention them.
So now that we've had the segue segment.
And the anti-segue
segment. So Geek is Good is going to be...
Wait, I'm sorry. Do I have to timestamp all of these segments? Oh,
yes.
Man.
We're going to be... It's going to be a little discussion, or a long discussion, depending on how angry Leland gets, about how being hardcore into different sort of aspects of nerd culture has become more mainstream. So nowadays, being a nerd or being a geek, does that even exist? Is that a bad thing? What does it mean? are we all geeks nowadays? And we're just going to kind of have a general discussion about that. And is there anything that's still considered sort of taboo or nerdy or kind of counterculture? Or are all these things now part of the mainstream media and culture? So, did you want to jump into that a bit, Moby?
Yeah, I do have a few points where I think there still is stigma in being a geek, but I think overall there's been a lot of improvement. So I would say maybe 75 to 80% of what used to be social stigma geekhood is no longer, there's really a social stigma to it. I mean, you look at movies and video games. When we were growing up, if you were an adult playing video games, it was weird, for the lack of a better term. You were kind of a nerd or a geek. And, even movies, if you were a big Star Wars fan, that was really geeky up to and through the prequels. But now kind of everybody at least sees Star Wars, in the theaters. And, as long as you're not dressing like a Jedi in your everyday life, there's really not a lot of stigma there.
I feel like a lot of people just hid those things before. Like, a lot of people probably were Star Trek or Star Wars fans, but they didn't talk about it. It wasn't like water cooler discussion. And nowadays it is.
Yeah. Now you're left out if you don't talk about it, if you can't talk about it. If you have seen those, and you're missing out on a lot of cultural references.
I feel like Game of Thrones is a good example of that. Because I know so many people who go, "Oh, do you watch Game of Thrones?" And I do not peg them as the kind of person who would watch any sort of fantasy television. Now I realize it's very mainstream, but it is mainstream because
it's fantasy by Luce's definition only.
Sure, it's definitely, but it's considered low fantasy. It's not high fantasy. Yeah. But you could argue also that Lord of the Rings and that sort of thing, which is high fantasy, has definitely permeated our culture and our everyday speak and what we're into.
Totally.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I say keep it secret, keep it safe on a daily basis of regards to something, anything.
And my axe.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I've kind of been trying unsuccessfully to tiptoe back into the dating world there and looking at online dating stuff. And, you've got a lot of people that will put at least a few things that would formerly be very geeky into their profiles as interests. And nobody kind of really bats an eye anymore. And, I think I want to make a differentiation here. I think being geeky, into Marvel movies and comic books and that kind of stuff is okay. But I think if you're a nerd, and maybe the line is a little blurred, but if you're like a true nerd that's not groomed and doesn't have good hygiene and just kind of sits on a computer and farts all day, I mean, there is still a stigma there.
But that's like a personal hygiene stigma.
Well, okay, but maybe there's something to that. Maybe the fact that people that are formerly...
So you're
differentiating the words itself.
So you're saying being nerdy as opposed to being geeky in a specific subject is, if you're a nerd, then you're higher on that... Yeah,
that's exactly what I'm saying.
Okay. I feel the opposite. I feel like geek is
that's because we self-identify as nerds. That's probably why.
So I definitely don't.
Exactly.
Okay.
So.
Yeah.
Okay. Huh.
Okay.
Well, one of the two. Does one of the two though denote being like borderline obsessed with a specific thing? Because you could be geeky or like a nerd in any subject, right? It doesn't just have to be fantastical novels or superheroes or fantasy or sci-fi. Like you could be a football geek nerd. Which one would you use then, right? Like
football
if you're
geek, probably.
Football, probably, right? Probably.
Yeah, but you'd be like a physics geek too if you're good. But you'd be a comic book nerd.
Yes.
If you're too far into it. So
this is weird.
Yeah, I feel like this is like apples too. Like apples. Like this.
I think so.
Well, that's why I said there's a fuzzy line. That's kind of hard to define.
Right, but you just you said that, and then you just defined it.
Yeah, I gave him my best shot.
Well, let's just say that there's some things that are still considered.
All right, well, no, I want to just say we're going to use geek nerd interchangeably.
Okay.
With neither of them having any more negative connotation than the other.
Okay, because I didn't know you guys actually identified as nerds. I would identify as a geek.
I'm not a geek.
I would say I'm a geek.
I'd say I'm a nerd.
Okay. Well, then we'll have to use them interchangeably. You have no choice.
And I'd say you guys are losers.
Thank you, Marty. It's not like you're married or anything. Oh, we are. And we're not. Okay.
And 3-time champ.
Yeah, but his wife's married to a loser.
Oh, that's true.
I'm the funny one now, bitch.
She's married to someone else? When did you marry her?
Shit.
You know, I got to insert this somewhere. It's not going to make sense elsewhere, I don't think, but I did want to just discuss the concept of cosplay. I think the fact that there's like a number of really hot women that cosplay with excellent costumes and they've kind of gotten famous. I think that's kind of opened things up a little bit for women to be more accepting of, you know, geek or nerdhood, because these things are more acceptable at conventions. They're more photographed.
Sure, it's like empowering some of those closeted female
100%
nerds or geeks. Yeah, okay, I guess.
Yeah, I just wondered if you guys thought...
But do you think, though... But I think a woman being into that type of culture is valued much more highly than a man. Of course, because the men are always doing the ballooing.
Yeah, I could see that.
So I think the stigma is applied to basically the males.
Yeah. Actually, I have that down. That there's a double standard, and that men who cosplay are still stigmatized, you know, a bit. You know, if you got some chick who's a super hot Jedi.
Whenever you see pictures or photos displayed of cosplay, some usually women cosplay.
Sure.
I
also feel like it's very rare for like an athletic man to be cosplaying as like a shirtless character or something in a sexual way that's going to appeal to any females.
Yeah. Well, and also, I mean, this is again opening a can of worms, but then you go into the actual pool to draw from characters in which to cosplay. If you're cosplaying a female character, they're generally depicted as being
sexualized.
Yes, exactly. Right. So, I mean, that's a whole other thing.
Yeah. I also think that females in general, you know, even though they may very much be as nerdy as us, it's almost like they have to be like tested and proven to be like in that group.
Totally. Yeah. They're never taken at face value.
You're into video games. Yeah. What do you play? Okay, you turn that on once in a while.
Yeah, right?
I notice that a lot.
Totally. That's a good point.
Call me when you play Stardew Valley.
Oh, you beat it? Have you played it right to the end? Do you have all the
legendary fish?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, one card is really hard to get. Comes like in the full moon on the third day of winter or whatever.
Well, that's a good point. And again, that's really a whole nother topic. I mean, I guess, right? But
yeah.
Well, but still, it's worth mentioning for sure. I mean, because that's part of the stigmatism.
One thing I want to ask you guys is: are there any places or media where there is still a definite stigma, or it feels embarrassing to be a geek or a nerd, or hide it? And what might those areas be?
Well, from one thing that I'm definitely not, so don't get any ideas, is like bronies. Like when you see people into My Little Pony.
Yeah.
Like
they're still shunned.
It's confusing to me, and especially if they're cloppers. And you can just look that up. Do you know what that is, Moby?
Cloppers? I don't, but it really sounds like something I don't want to know what it is.
Well, it's men who are like, you know, there's some sexual association, and so if you're a clopper, you're probably on the fringe of society.
Yeah, you're probably not telling everybody that you're a clopper.
Yeah, and
I mean, you find, but again, you find your clopper groups. I think,
it's a lot easier to find a group now.
Yeah, true, totally, okay, totally. And that's like with anything now, the overall nerd/geek group is just getting bigger and bigger across the world. Yeah. Right? And now it is easier to find.
That's the acceptance. I think that's where the internet and the accessibility and connection of the world makes a big difference.
Yeah,
You're no longer just the one nerd in your town.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Mind you, I still think like, you wouldn't want to go too hardcore with it. Like I mentioned that you can slip a few things into a dating profile saying you're interested in Game of Thrones or video games or whatever, but you wouldn't want to be like, I'm a geek. We've got geeks in. I'm geeks in. We got geeks in here. It's you don't want to do that kind of thing. I think overall, where you go out and you say like I'm a geek and this is all who I am.
Yeah, but I mean.
Don't roll a one, baby. Get with me.
You talking about what you're putting in your fucking online dating profile. Let me finish. Let me finish.
Okay.
You putting that kind of stuff in your dating profile versus you casually chatting with an acquaintance or a friend about these specific topics is very different.
Yes.
So they're applied to different situations. It's like anything. you need to apply it to the proper situation.
Okay, but like I would never hold back anywhere that I'm a sports fan, and I am. Sure. But I'm saying, you're basically making my point for me.
No, but you can turn the tables and say that can turn somebody off too.
I don't know.
I don't think I would want to go out with a girl who was a hardcore sports fan because I don't share that same interest.
Okay.
So, and if that is what they decide to portray as their defining characteristic of themselves, then it's a hard pass for me.
Okay.
So you know what I'm saying? And which you're right. It does play into exactly what you say. You choose and pick what you're putting in those profiles, right? Like,
right.
I don't know. That's
because you'd be a sports geek at that point, which is the bad one. So if you're a sports geek, you might scare away some women who are, they might be okay with sports nerds, but not sports geeks. I think that's the same with everybody too, though. Even if, something is kind of commonly talked about. I'll just use Game of Thrones as one more example.
Yeah, but that's so mainstream.
It's
like saying, hey, did you see the latest Marvel movie?
True.
Everybody and their dog is saying those movies.
What I'm getting at,
everybody's watching that stupid show.
Let me fucking finish. Is that when you talk to somebody who's not as much of a nerd about it, or a geek, or whatever fucking term we're going to use, you're going to, be a little more vague with it. Oh, did you see that episode? Oh, that was great. But if you talk to somebody who's like, oh, I read the books, well, you're going to dive in and,
Sure. Okay.
You're going to dive in head first, right? That's what I'm getting at.
You got to test the waters.
Yeah.
Right? And you got to see what you're getting into and see how much you can chat about it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, but that's a typical social situation.
True.
Okay, well, I'm going to throw two examples.
Do you just have to play devil's advocate there?
He really does, listener. I mean, go back through our
It's very unnecessary to have this whole discussion. Why are we even here? Turn the mics off.
This is not my beautiful house.
Okay, two places, one obscure still, but one, I guess, fairly mainstream where I really do think there is a stigma. LARPing is the obvious one. I mean, it's out there, but not a lot of people do it. But I think LARPing's a...
You think that's too far?
I think that's too far.
I think LARPing's cool, man. I would love to try a LARP.
Are you dead serious?
Yeah. I think that's awesome. I would totally try a LARP.
Okay. Well, I'm feeling a stigma towards you right now.
What's wrong with LARPing? So what do you...
Well, the fact that you're dressing up in a forest playing imaginary games. I did that, but I stopped when I was 11.
Right, but no, so all LARPing is a little bit extra on top of role playing. That's all it is. You're not there to wear the costume and play fight with swords. You're there for the role playing.
Okay.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
And all that character and that physicality of it enhances the role play.
Yeah. Similar to us just playing Fiasco. We get really into it. We do the voices. We do everything. Some people might not, but we like to go, pretty full.
I see it as you're just enhancing your own experience.
Okay.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Okay, but, the idea or what the videos I've seen of LARPing, and yeah, I've never done it ever, seen one live, but it seems like they're shooting elastics at each other, going, lightning bolt, lightning bolt, lightning bolt.
Yeah, okay. And how old and by whom were those videos by and put out?
I don't know.
You got a good point. They're going to show you the nerdiest.
Of course. You know what I'm going to link? There was a great YouTube series, about LARPing. Watch it. I will link it. I'll find it. I'll link it in the show notes. Watch it.
I'll take it.
It's
so
great.
Are you basically saying for real LARPing or whatever LARPing you're talking about that people are just taking pen and paper role playing and making it physical?
That's the impression that I get from it. I think that I mean, of course, again, I've never done it and I don't know anybody who's done it. So I'm just talking out my ass like I usually do, but I think that's what I portray it as. I portray it as all, they're just enhancing their own role playing experience. That's what I take it as. Because, and again, this series, I really wish I could remember the name of it. I think it's literally just called like LARP or something, but I will just watch this YouTube series. It's really good.
I'll give it a watch.
And so it's not like a series that explains LARPing to you. It's about people who LARP. And it's a character series about the people who
to me, it honestly seemed, and I might be wrong here, but I mean, it really did seem like people just bang swords together and play like.
I'm sure they did. Yeah, I'm sure they did. They do that.
Okay, and I'm saying there's a stigma to that.
Oh, okay, yeah. But you are attacking me personally right now with your tone and your look that you're giving me.
Yes, but that's not my message. I'm just attacking you.
No, but it is your message.
No, it's just because I don't like you.
This is no, but you're saying you disapprove of LARPers. I do. If you so
but you're not a LARPer.
If a beautiful woman on their dating profile put that they are a hardcore LARPer, in addition to some other interesting, maybe not so in the vein of nerd and geek culture things.
Cooking, cleaning, and fucking.
How about they were a giant Canucks fan, but they also like to LARP?
It would scare me.
Okay.
It would scare me.
Sure,
now,
I guess I said the same thing about a hardcore sports fan as myself, so I get it.
Right. It would be exactly that kind of thing. Like if the hardcore sports fan liked other stuff, it might be a little bit of a strike.
But now
I want to...
But when we play street hockey and you don your Eric Lindros jersey, you are LARPing, my friend. You are LARPing. Yes, you are.
I'm not role playing. I'm not pretending to be Eric Lindros.
I feel like sometimes you are.
Yeah, I think you're a LARPer. You're a closet LARPer.
It's not intended. It is not intended.
I fall down at least 4 times a game.
Concussions, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's because...
No, okay, that's obviously a bad analogy. But, let's go back it up to cosplay. If you go out to a sporting event and wear a jersey, you're cosplaying.
That's not a costume.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. If you got a jersey with Sadine's name on the back of it, you were cosplaying as Sadine.
I completely disagree.
No, it's the
I
same
think you're taking
fucking
that way too fucking far.
It's very similar.
You're taking that a little bit too. There is a similarity to it. You're supportive of it. But you're not cosplaying when you go to see Star Wars and you're wearing a Star Wars shirt. Now, if you're dressed as Boba Fett, you're a cosplayer.
Yes, exactly. I wear a bright orange BB
Sure, but
hoodie.
now you're cutting hairs on the difference between celebrities and nerd culture icons. Right?
No,
is that where the difference
really
comes
don't
from?
feel
No,
like
I'm saying if you lit... Okay, now if he went dressed, like if he shaves his head to look like Daniel Sedin, if he gets a little bit shorter and he like thins down and he looks just like Daniel, and he's just putting on the accent, then he's cosplaying as Daniel Sedin.
Exactly.
Okay.
Just wearing a jersey.
I don't think so.
Before we get off...
You're a cosplayer. You're a cosplayer.
Okay.
Well,
now,
you're closet LARPer.
Has the stereotypical image then of a nerd or geek been done away with? Like,
no. I mean, Moby just spouted off about the fatty and smelly guy in the basement. That's the exact. So no.
That's true.
Move on.
No, but I think in general that, if you walk down the street, you don't know by looking at them who's into what. But you never did, I guess. Yeah. But because there's so many more people into these things, do you see somebody and just go, oh, that must be a nerd?
Well,
I get what you're asking.
Marty brings up a good point there. There's a number of people that we're mutual friends with that walking down the street, they would not at all look nerdy, but they're into a lot of nerdy stuff. And you would probably
like me. I don't look like a nerd.
Well, I would think even myself, like me
sure,
and
you certainly don't look like a nerd, Marty.
No, but like,
walking down the street.
We start hitting up the gym, and, we're ripping,
swole.
125 on the bench press.
Yeah.
Like, nobody thinks we're a nerd.
Damn.
High reps. So, high reps.
Yeah, that's fair.
19 reps.
Protect the joints. Protect the joints.
Yeah, we're getting old. Yeah, but seriously though, like, you're at the gym and you see people training or whatever, or they're big, you really can't tell by somebody who's athletic, and you would not maybe 20 years ago.
You can't, but what if that person is then wearing a superhero shirt? Are you then to assume that they are into that culture?
Like Superman dick?
Yeah, sure, like Superman dick, but was there another new guy I hadn't seen before? He was wearing a soup shirt. Yeah. So are you just to assume that they are, and then I could approach him and be like, "Hey, buddy, I like Superman too. Let's be friends. Can you spot me?"
Yeah, I think it's more likely that they just picked up a $15 shirt at
from maybe sure.
Like I like that logo. I think that's everywhere nowadays.
Well, it wasn't actually just a logo; it was the logo with Superman and this classic flying pose behind it. So it's a little more involved.
Maybe he's a fan of flying.
Maybe. This is going nowhere. But what I'm trying to say is the look goes both ways.
Yeah, I guess.
Again, we're just judging people on their appearance. But does wearing a single shirt depicting some type of nerd culture, whether it be Star Wars or the superhero or what, does that just automatically classify them as a nerd just because by looking at them?
No, and I don't think it should automatically classify them as a fan either. And, you can wear stuff and not necessarily be a super big fan of it.
Sure.
Well, and the whole
She could be wearing it ironically.
The whole
True.
point is that those properties now have become so mainstream that, you know, if you wear a Superman shirt or any other superhero that's in the films or Star Wars even, you know.
I think
nobody's
superheroes
really
especially.
Yeah.
That's just everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, I think that was one of the big things that really turned the tide, I think, in the early 2000s was those superhero films.
Right.
You know, that changed it for comic books. Now it's okay to read a comic book.
Yeah. Out in the open.
Yeah. People just seem interested when you tell them, oh, I read comics. Oh, cool. What comics do you read?
Yeah.
You know, whereas before it might have been like, oh.
I think it's just giving a lot of more social talking points.
Yeah.
In a bunch of different diverse peoples.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right?
I mean, I think the water cooler, you know.
Well, I mean, long gone
changed.
is the water cooler talk,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Well, it's a little different now. Like,
it's,
you know.
it's super different.
Well, and also that's just based on media itself. You don't talk about
the consumption.
The show wasn't what was on at 8 p.m. last night.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's like, oh, did you binge watch Narcos? Well, yes.
Yeah. Well, I'm about halfway through. So it's like, oh, well, you know, I watched all 13 in at once, so I couldn't tell you what happened in any numbered episode, but I know what happened. That's always what happens when you binge. You're just like, oh, I don't know what happened in what episode, but I can tell you the chain of events that led up to this finale.
I'm just going to throw in a funny story about Leland binge watching Community and watching it in one weekend and then thinking that was great and then binge watching it again.
I love Community.
just restarting it.
It's so good. Specifically the first 3 seasons.
They're very
It's
good.
so good. But season 5 is great and 6 actually did a great job of wrapping it up.
Have you gave BoJack Horseman a chance yet?
I haven't watched that yet.
Okay, so the 4th episode dropped. Or
Yeah.
4th season.
Yeah. I saw that.
And I gotta say, that's one of my favorite shows.
I really gotta watch it. I heard crappy things, but then you said some, and a listener was talking about how great it was. Yeah. I'm gonna have to sit down and watch
It's one of those shows, I think the first couple episodes are the weakest.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, it immediately figures out what it is.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Did you ever finish The Defenders?
I didn't even start.
Yeah. Let's not talk about
I
that.
got 10 minutes in.
I don't want to talk about that.
Yeah, that can be.
But I'll talk about another terrible show that I have like a new guilty pleasure right now. And it's not even a pleasure. I've been watching Pretty Little Liars.
Oh,
I'm on the last season. I'm on season 7.
holy shit.
And this was like, I think I started watching it. This is like all in like 3 weeks. I think I've watched all this. It's fucking bad. It's so bad.
Then
But
why?
you already know the answer to that question.
You have to do everything. Like, when you start it, you have to finish it.
I have to finish this stupid thing. I'm in it to win it. I'm.
All right, coach. All right, coach.
Put me in, coach. It's so bad. It's so poorly written. These character decisions are dumb. I'm literally yelling at the screen every 5 seconds because someone's doing something stupid. That this plot hinges on one character choosing to go to the cops instead of fuck.
Hey, listener, what did we say about nerds being obsessive?
One more segue on a TV show. It was Dad of Light. It was the one that.
Oh, that was good.
recommended.
I liked it.
I've done 2 episodes. I'm gonna finish it.
It actually goes down a little bit, but it
Yeah.
starts pretty strong.
Yeah,
Yeah, I liked it.
it's weird, but,
It's really
but
weird.
like not too weird for me.
No, it's fine for me. You know what that is, Mo?
I don't, actually.
Oh, it's okay. So it's a son trying to reconnect with his father by playing Final Fantasy 14.
It's a
Okay.
Japanese television show.
Yeah.
They intersplice it on Netflix with footage from the game,
Yeah,
and basically the plot is that he gets his dad Final Fantasy 14, and he plays the game with him, but under an alias. Like, he's playing as a character, and his dad doesn't know it's him.
right.
And-
All in an attempt to befriend his father because when he was a child, he picked up Final Fantasy 3. What it was 3 or 6?
3.
3, which is 6 in North America. And as a
It's
child,
actually 3. It's the real 3.
oh,
Yeah, it's
So-
3 in Japan, 3. Final Fantasy 6 in Japan is 3 here.
oh, okay. Well, then I think it was 6 that he picked up in the. I
3.
think I read that somewhere.
3.
Oh, was
It's
it?
apparently it's 3. Okay, let's not get
No,
stuck
no,
on this
3
point
here, but 6.
I think
It's the same game.
It's 3 here.
They picked up
3
the same.
here,
Yes, they picked up. Anyways, he played this game. He played whatever fucking game this was with his dad as a child. They bonded. They grew apart because his dad's a workaholic. His dad was, took an early retirement because it turns out he's sick. But of course, he hasn't told his family because he's, all stoic-y. befriends him under an alias.
Spoilers?
Yeah, oh yeah, totally.
I don't know that.
Oh, shit. Well, come on, you know that. You know that.
Spoilers.
You know that's what's wrong.
I do now.
In the first episode, he bends over in agonizing pain.
I thought that's just what Japanese people did.
Anyways, he befriends his dad. In the whole thing, he's helping his father progress through this game to befriend him, and then at the end, he's going to reveal it was your son all along. We can be best friends.
It's actually a cool concept.
It's really cool. Yeah,
funny.
It's enjoyable. I would certainly pick it up.
What's the name again? I'm actually going to write it down.
Dad of Light.
And now, I liked it before they translated it. It was actually Daddy of Light, which was much better.
Interesting.
Yeah, okay, so back to our conversation.
That was Banter Segment 2.
So we agree that the nerd geek image thing's kind of changed, I guess, and there's still a little bit of...
Sorry, I want to interrupt. And so, should I be ashamed of telling people that I watch Pretty Little Liars? Does that play into our conversation?
You know what? I've heard of the show, but I don't know anything about it.
It's like based off of like young adult novels. It's like, I think it's general as the target audience is like teenage girls.
I would say probably yeah.
It's like if you watch like Gossip Girl, like that kind of stuff.
I would say definitely yeah.
Well, I wanted to see what the hubbub was. Okay.
Apparently you've seen a lot of hubbub.
Does that,
because you're on season 7.
Does that fall? Yeah, I've seen all the hubbub.
Have you made your decision?
I've seen more than enough hubbub, but there's still a little hub to go, so I gotta get to the bub.
Leland, you and I are the opposites. If you knew how many seasons of different shows I watched, like 2 episodes and stopped.
See, that's criminal because you
I do
never
the same
know.
thing now, too.
You never know.
No, I have limited time.
Well, obviously, I will admit that this fucking Pretty Little Liars has taken up a lot of my time recently, and I have not done a lot of other things that I should have been doing instead.
I also recommend
like dating.
I also recommend that doesn't go in your dating profile.
I don't know if I want to date 16-year-olds.
Are you a pretty little liar? Because I'll watch you.
Oh, gee.
I want to learn what your bub is about, Hub.
Hey, save that for the post show as usual. Okay, next topic.
Sorry. Wait, Martin was finishing a thought that I interrupted.
Well, I was just saying.
He was reiterating on whether or not there's still stigma.
So I think there's still stigma.
Yes, there is. They're shaming me. They're Pretty Little Liars shaming me.
But you don't look like it. By looking at you, I don't know that you look like somebody who watches Pretty Little Liars.
Okay, I'll take it.
But I think the last part of this was...
My Pretty Little Liars shirt didn't bring it to give it away?
Oh, that's what that is.
Lucy Hale. Oh, man, Lucy Hale. She is hot as hell.
I gotta look her up.
She's gorgeous.
I don't know who that is.
She's one of the actresses. She's like the point of watching that show.
How has the industry taken steps to bridge the gap between the hardcore and the normies? Sorry, you didn't see my quotations.
Oh, yeah. Hardcore wasn't quotations. No, I'm just kidding.
Normies was in quotations.
I think geekish films, for the lack of a better term, like, the Marvel movies or whatnot, they do a pretty good job of giving you an origin story, or at least making it so you don't need hardcore knowledge of the comics to get into it. And I think that kind of helps bridge.
Yeah, and then, okay, I don't think that those Marvel movies would be a starting point for someone to go dive into other forms of media. If you have never indulged in any Captain America source material before, and then you go and see the movie because you enjoy the stream of Marvel movies, I don't believe that they are enough to entice you, or their point of them is to entice you to further your education in that character.
No, but that's not my argument.
But that would be the gap between the hardcores and the normies, in my opinion.
I think the gap is trying to make it appealing to both. So it's going to make the fanboys go, okay, that was respectable to the Captain America source material.
Yeah.
And the other people just to go see it.
Okay.
And I think for the most part, Marvel does a great job of doing that.
I thought we were talking about turning normies.
Oh, well.
But I misunderstood. I get what you're saying now.
A lot of normies have been turned to comics to some extent. Because I didn't really read comics up until the Marvel film started coming out. And then I got into that.
Okay.
So I think it does happen.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
But I really think that they, like, especially, I mean, of course, the go-to is to talk about Marvel, but they do lots of stuff to throw in Easter eggs that more knowledgeable readers of the comics will pick up on. I think that's all in in an effort to help bridge that gap.
Yeah, that's smart. They do that as well.
I mean, even with it, which we just discussed last episode.
There was.
They did the same
Easter
thing, right?
eggs.
The people who know about the source material picked up on some of the stuff. So
yeah, and that's a smart way to adapt it without making it so blunt and overt. And we talked about that in the video game one too. Video game film adaptions, like video game film adaptions, were doing that. They're just ham-handed, ham-fisted, just throwing them in there right in your face.
Yeah.
Whereas a good one doesn't.
That was in Movie Musings of episode 5.
Yes, but you already knew that, listener.
I hope so. But go back and listen again, in case you forgot.
For board games, I think what ends up happening is you get some gateway board games, which kind of straddle the line between mainstream and hardcore mechanics. And the one that comes to mind is Settlers of Catan. I think that's one.
We don't really need to talk about Settlers.
Why? You're not a fan of Settlers?
Not in particular, but it's everybody's gateway. Everybody knows it's.
Well, that's
if
my
you've
whole
played
point.
a board game, you've played Catan. It's not called Settlers anymore, by the way. It's been rebranded as just Catan.
It's just plain Catan.
But yeah,
back in the day, though, at least for me, before Leland got into board games.
Oh, we were playing it before we knew what it was.
Sure, but to me, this seemed like something different. This seemed like a step beyond all the other board games I had grown up with.
Yeah, I don't know. It served its purpose, and I don't believe that it does as much as it did now, just because of the way the hobby. I believe there's a lot of other games that newer people in the hobby now would tell you are their gateway games, as opposed to Catan.
I'm not disagreeing with you at all, but I am interested. What do you think some of those games are?
Well, I mean, just even Ticket to Ride or Carcassonne, or looking at my shelf right now. What's on this shelf? Even something like Takanoko, like that kind of stuff. It's all lighter fare that you could easily introduce somebody new to that stuff. But I didn't mean to interrupt your point. I'm just saying, yeah, everyone knows Catan, gateway, boom.
I think Dixit was a good jump off point too.
Yeah, that's a good one too. That's a good one.
That one always gets everyone.
But when it comes between into the board gaming hobby industry, I think it's its own beast as far as acceptable in geek culture, because it's not necessarily something, if you haven't played the games, you don't know about them, right? If you're not interested in playing those games, you aren't going to learn about them. It's not in your face like a big, huge blockbuster movie is. And I think that also plays to the type of medium it is, obviously, right? Mm-hmm. But I mean, I even think, though, even within the industry, there's like the people that play the, in quotations, heavier games, like the ones that they could take upwards of 3 to 6 hours, and by the time you're done, your brain is melted, and a lot of people don't enjoy those. They're usually classified as Euro games just because of their origin or whatever. But so even within that small little niche, which is of course getting bigger and bigger, I think you still have some stigma even there too. And of course those, and again, it works the other way. People who are I just basically shit on Catan. Like I'm all high and mighty on my horse because I've played bigger and better and more depthy games. So I just did exactly what people shouldn't do it. I mean, it's the same as people bitch and hark on Cards Against Humanity, which we've talked about briefly before. It serves its purpose, and people who like it. Who cares if they like it? Let them play it. If you don't like it, don't play it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, if you like Batman vs Superman, go watch it.
Yeah,
just realize that you're
don't
watching
talk to me about
inferior film.
In a weird way, that parodies, I know this is not geek related at all, but, wine. Like, wine, there's a lot of snobbery in that industry, but the really good people that are into it, that write for magazines and are popular, they usually just go, hey, if you like a wine and it's $15, just drink what you fucking enjoy. Totally.
But you know what? I think even that stigma is becoming lessened. I don't know from what, I'm just getting that feeling. Like, when I think about that, and maybe it's because I recently started to drink more wines and, I don't know, experience more range of quality and versus price and stuff. I think that stigma, even that, is lessening. maybe the world's just becoming a better place, you guys.
No, I get what you mean. I definitely think it's okay now for people to go, oh, I went on a winery tour and I tried all these wines, and to have like an opinion about this expensive wine or whatever, it's not really a big issue anymore.
No.
Yeah, personally, one of my favorite wines is $12 Jackson Triggs Red. And, so I've gotten occasional shit.
As far as Okanagan wines go, that's certainly mass marketed wine, right?
Exactly. One other thing I wanted to bring up, just as a general topic about, stigma and geek culture. Gamers are aging. Period. I mean, just the wave of gamers that are still playing games as they hit middle and even senior age. There's more and more of them. And
Patrick Hillier. Excuse me.
Well, okay, fine, it's one game, but I know from World of Warships, which is my favorite PC game, the average age is 50 plus. A lot of my friends there are 60 plus even. And it's a different community, but it's a great community. And, I kind of like how there's no stigma there for being an old man, grabbing a medal.
I don't see why there should be. It doesn't make any sense.
There used to be. You used to be you're 30 years old and playing games.
I love how you're playing in the retirement community video game.
They are kind and gentle souls.
Now you take your shot, Sonny.
Are they good at the game?
Yeah, overall.
Right.
But, you're talking a game where if you want to move your guns from left to right, it takes 90 seconds.
Yeah, I am familiar with the gameplay.
And your ships go about 20 miles per hour. So, yes, it's easy for old people to grab the mouse.
You don't really need that Twitch response time.
No, not at all. Which I think is...
they're aging, but more and more new ones are coming up and also aging into it. So you think there's more aging in or more aging out? Or can you even age out anymore?
I think that's the issue. I don't think you don't age out anymore.
Just don't age out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think for the most part, our parents' generation will be the last generation where playing video games over a lifetime and enjoying geek culture over a lifetime had some sort of stigma to it. Yeah. Like, I know if my dad or mom got into geek culture stuff right now, their own friends would look down on them.
Yeah.
They'd be like, what are you guys doing?
If your mom went out for a LARP?
Yes, especially if my mom went out for a LARP. But, my dad, he used to be obsessed with Harvest Moon and with Bomberman. And he could play those all afternoon. And if his friends knew, he's a hockey player. It's the fuck, get back on the ice, man. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, I agree. I think that is the last generation that'll be an issue for.
Well, and that... I think stigma, is going a lot away for women. We've kind of touched on that too. But I don't know a single woman myself, and I thought about this before the episode, that doesn't play video games in some respect. All of them do that. I know personally.
Yeah, I suppose
that are my age.
Yeah. Okay.
Most of the women my age I know will at least play them. I wouldn't say they would play them on their own, but in a social setting, they would play them the same as going to see a film or a board game.
Yeah. I like it.
Okay.
Every woman I know just wants to have sex with me, so I can't really have female friends. It gets a little,
Yeah, it's tough.
That's confusing.
Yeah. I even have to drop some of my guy friends, too.
That's really hard for you to get into that friend zone.
Meta alert.
Yeah. It's meta to announce a meta, Moby.
We're breaking the fourth wall.
Yeah, it's fourth wall.
Kevin Sorbo would defend me. He would always defend
my goodness.
We ready to move into movie musings?
I think so.
Beat this topic to death.
Yeah.
Okay, so today on...
Wait, okay, can we sum up whether or not our thoughts on...
Okay, yeah, that's cool.
Because we were really all over the place.
Yeah. Okay, so what was the topic again?
All right, stigma. They're degrading or will always stay.
Heavily degraded, in my opinion.
I agree.
I think so. Heavily degraded. Still there, but compared to 20 years ago, it's almost
night and day.
Sure.
Night and day.
But will it always be there? And
yes.
I guess that's a weird... Yeah, I agree, yes. But I guess that's a weird question to ask because there's always going to be like somebody who doesn't like that stuff, right?
This is a weird visual analogy, but it's almost like, when you put a light on in the room, no matter how good the light bulbs are or how powerful, there's part of the room where there's still a dark little corner. And I think there's still going to be niche places in geek culture that are stigmatized to some degree for a long time.
Okay.
Sounds good?
Take her away there, Moby.
Movie Musings. villains. This one titled Untouchable Tyrell Corps. Tyrell Corps being the corporation in the original Bladerunner film that makes the replicants, which are androids. And this is a topic that we're going to start off talking about Bladerunner specifically, but we're kind of going to move a little bit broader into sequels. So I think safe to say the biggest Bladerunner fan here. I've loved the movie. It's absolutely in my top 10 of best movies of all time. And I followed the sequel, which is about to come out in a few weeks, very, very tightly. And a lot of people that I know that are hardcore Bladerunner fans, they think the sequel is completely unnecessary. And honestly, they're offended no matter what it is that the sequel was even made. And I kind of want to give a little bit of history there, why this is. Blade Runner, when it was originally released in 1982, was a very different film than most people saw. It had heavy, heavy studio interference, to the point that Ridley Scott basically he was the director, was basically taken off the film, and the studio directly influenced or forced certain changes in. One of the most notable in the original cut was that Harrison Ford was forced to do like a 1940s film noir voiceover to make everything explicit. And Ford himself has said that he specifically botched his own performance in the hopes that the studio would not use it. And they still used it.
Oh man, that's terrible. That's so good.
So what you ended up happening is not just, the original cut, which sucked, and then another extended cut came out later. There were 8 cuts of Blade Runner made.
That's crazy.
8 cuts. There was the original cut. There was the US theatrical cut, both of which sucked. There's the international cut, which I don't know a lot about. There was the work print, which is important because when people saw it, it was shown to a small test audience in, I think, 1989, and it was responded to really positively. That was a print, obviously, that Ridley Scott had worked on himself, and that got the director's cut made, but the director's cut is poorly named because Ridley Scott did not actually do the director's cut. He was somewhat consulted, and he gave notes, but he did not have any direct control over that cut. It's okay. That's the one I own. It's probably the second best cut. Only in 2007, this movie came out in 1982, only in 2007 was Ridley Scott allowed back in to make the final cut of the film that is the definitive cut. So I think where a lot of people's fear comes in with this specific sequel is that it was so tampered with and poisoned the original film from the start, and so much effort was made to come out with this classic and release it as it should have been, that people see these ghosts of this studio interference and this mismanagement, and they think that the second is just going to be a cash grab and fuck everything up, like the original release.
Wow. That's
I kind of feel different about it.
A lot of history.
I kind of feel like it's a cash grab. And I feel like it's completely unnecessary, not for those reasons. Not because I'm scared of studio influence. In fact, I'm pretty sure there's going to be almost no studio influence, judging by the director and the actor. I'm actually feeling pretty good about that. I just don't think it needs a sequel. Plain and simple. I just watched it last night, so it's fresh. It's a good movie. I don't think it's as good as everyone says. I think also, if you watched it 20 years ago or 30 years ago, probably resonates with you a bit stronger.
Maybe not after all the shitty theatrical releases.
But, for me, I thought it was great in aspects like the acting, specifically Rutger Hauer is awesome in it. Harrison Ford is fine. I don't think he's really anything special in it.
Not really. No.
And most of the other android characters are just kind of okay. And then special effects wise, it's very dated. Even the whole techno noir theme that they go for and everything kind of, I don't know, just reminds me of the Terminator music and stuff. And
yeah.
I don't know. It just didn't do it for me, I guess. It was fine, but does it really?
Well, it doesn't age well.
No, I guess that's as simple as you could put it.
I think so.
And I just don't think it needs a sequel. Like the way they leave the movie actually ends really cool. I like the ending. It leaves it open. You're kind of wondering whether he's an android or not. They just kind of skirt around that subject. deliberately, which is neat.
Yeah.
And they just leave it. And you don't really know what's going to happen, but they leave it there. There's a lot of interpretation you can pull from it, which is always a nice way to end a film. But otherwise, yeah, does it really need a sequel? Other than the fact that, now we got names and money on our side. Let's make a big budget blockbuster.
Leland, thoughts?
Unnecessary sequel. I agree with a lot of what you're saying there, Mark. When I watched it, I don't know. I like it. It's cool. I think, I don't know.
But isn't that it? It's cool. But that's it.
Yeah. It's not something that I would clamor to sit down and watch again, which is usually like what we just talked about, Community. When I like something, I'll watch the fuck out of it.
Well, my concern, and this is based off everything I've read in the trailers I've seen, Bladerunner deliberately leaves it open on whether or not Deckard's a replicant. And you watch it over and over again, you see different clues, you confirm your biases or see clues against. I really think with the second one, they're going to definitively answer that.
Scott already has. Ridley Scott has come out and said it.
Yes, and I watched that, but believe it or not, a lot of fans are like, oh no, he's just smoke screening. I believe he has been honest about it.
Yeah, I mean,
but other fans... But I'm saying the film itself is going to explicitly say.
That's funny that people are saying that, because then how do you take anything he says at face value? You are picking and choosing what he tells you and deciding whether or not you think it's true or lie.
But you do know Harrison Ford has said in converse that Deckard is not a replicant.
He said that in his mind he feels like Deckard is not a replicant.
Yeah, I've seen those videos too, those interviews too. Yeah. It's not a conflict. That you don't give a shit what the actor doesn't get to doesn't matter what the actor says.
I agree with you. I agree with you 110%.
I don't think they shouldn't even have recast Harrison Ford. Why? Why is Ford in it? I mean, again, I don't know the plot, obviously. Maybe he is integral and it makes sense. But why couldn't they have... I mean, the universe is cool. And it's great that it's wicked that it's tied in with the Alien franchise and stuff. Like, that's all the same universe. Like, it's really cool. And I don't know.
Well, he's on his retirement tour. He's going back to all his old franchises, and this is probably the last one. Other than...
I hope he retires.
He's going to do Air Force One Part 2. So.
Air Force 2. He's the vice president.
Air Force 2 is the helicopter.
Okay.
So he's in a helicopter.
The submarine.
Yeah. It's ironic because I think
that
David...
So they're just going to do the Hunt for Red October.
Yes.
Hunt for the Red November. I think David from the Alien prequels, from Prometheus, he's one of the better replicants. And it's funny because he's not even in the Blade Runner films. Yeah, that's interesting.
So what are we talking about? Are we talking about the original film, or are we talking about the progression of the franchise?
Well, I think the main thing we want to talk about was like the upcoming one.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
because we are going to do a bonus episode on it?
We are, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
We may as well.
I mean, remember, talking about Blade Runner here is a launch point for the rest of the topic.
Right. So, okay. Stinks. It stinks.
I started positive. We've got 2 negatives, so this is perfect to go into the next subtopic, which is, why do other movie sequels fail? And I know, Marty, you've got some notes.
I got a good one. Okay. Zoolander 2.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And I know you don't mind it, Moby.
Yeah.
But
it was not good.
I watched it. You enjoy it for what it is, that it's really stupid. But Zoolander 1 is really stupid too, but it's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Zoolander 2 is not so good.
No. It's stupid
for stupid's sake. It feels 20 years old. And
totally.
That's the thing, is like, you could watch a 20-year-old movie, have the nostalgia to it, go, it's old, but it's okay. But knowing that it's 20 years old, knowing that this film's from 2015 or 16 or whatever it was, did not fly.
That, like, they made a sequel that should have come out 2 years after the original, basically.
Yeah,
is that what they were thinking of?
It's not 5. Like, it would have almost been funnier if they were just a little bit older and they did the same story. Yeah. Their washout. That would have been almost hilarious.
Sure.
But yeah, it just was too far gone. And I worry about that with films, is that they want sequels to these films that were like good standalone. Some of them become like cult films, like Donnie Darko. There's a Donnie Darko 2 somewhere.
Oh, I've seen it. It is the most horrifying sequel I've ever seen.
It has no connection to the first one.
The sister's
Big Sister.
Or
something. I haven't seen it.
Don't
But Donnie Darko 1 is a great film. And then, and a perfect example of a cult film. And to make a sequel is so unnecessary.
What's interesting about Donnie Darko is it actually has two fairly different versions of the same film, but both are celebrated.
Oh.
So I've got the extended or the director's cut.
I have to, yeah.
But
what's the difference?
It's a lot of, you know what? It's weird. They actually do entire scenes out of order, but the same scenes, just out of order in the movie. And they change which music, again, the same music, is in different scenes. Oh. And it creates a different feel.
That's cool.
It's
like subliminal messaging.
It kind of is. I've got a friend, I've seen both. I much prefer the director's cut, but I've got a friend who loves to death the original cut.
Which is the theatrical release?
Which is the theatrical release.
Ah.
It makes sense, because I remember watching it again and seeing the director's cut and thinking there was something different about it. And it had been so long, so the differences, I couldn't pick them out. But now that you mentioned it, it's noticeable.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. I think back to like the sequels years and years after, and bringing back these actors to reprise roles from 20 years ago, you always end up with a overacted version of that character. Same thing happened with Dumb and Dumber 2.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like they're caricatures of their own character because they're out. I don't know. They're out of practice. They can't do it.
Well, because in the first film, they're acting like they're coming up with a character. In the second film, they're pretending to be the character they were in the first film. So, like, it's almost like
they're a dude pretending to be a dude playing another dude.
Yeah. And where it actually worked really well was, like, first day of camp or whatever
the Way Hot American Summer.
Yeah, in the first part of the prequel or sequel or whatever they did. Right? The prequel, not the sequel.
Yeah.
The prequel was pretty funny.
The prequel was good.
And because
the sequel was awful.
It was really bad.
It was awful.
Yeah, I stopped it.
Oh, I shouldn't have finished it. Fuck.
We just binge watched it. It just kept rolling in the
you just get through. They're not like god awful, but they're not good.
No.
Sounds like you're describing the series Love there, which I have finished. It's not god awful.
Love is good.
Love is good.
Yeah.
Love is good, everybody.
Is good.
Can't argue with that. I've got 5 points on why...
Whoa!
No. We're not going to go in depth.
No, I want to.
I've got 5 points I thought of why other movie sequels fail. You guys have hit one. Too much time in between. And why that is that, actors become caricatures.
It's just got too much time on their hands.
One that Leland will love that I put here is that the original film was not designed to have a sequel. And they just do it for like the point of because it was popular and now they got to make others, and they just want more money, which actually was another point, but they kind of go together. The sequel is seen as a money grab.
Yeah.
So, that.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
You know what? Finish your points. I kind of wanted to just remember to come back to that one specifically. Okay. I have a thought.
Sure. Because I was only going to lay these out pretty quick.
Okay.
My third point was that the people involved in the sequel then do not have as much passion as they did for the original. Maybe the original was and I'm worried about this a little bit with Deadpool 2 because there was so much effort that needed to be made to get Deadpool 1 made in the way they wanted it to. Josh Brolin looks great and Ryan Reynolds is Deadpool. He's just Deadpool is wearing a Ryan Reynolds suit. So, but yeah, there's passion or lack of passion. And the final one that I've really got there is there's a tonal shift sometimes in the sequel that's just awkward. It either gets sillier or too serious or dark, and it doesn't jive with what made the original, popular there. One trilogy that sums almost all of those up? In fact, as I look through these, it kind of does. Godfather. Godfather was always meant to be part 1 and part 2 from the very beginning. And Godfather Part 3 was many, many years later. The first 2 weren't. And Godfather Part 3 really was a money grab. It kind of had a tonal shift in that it, suddenly Michael Corleone is trying to be like a good guy. And it had some bad acting choices as well. But it basically hit all 5 notes of what went wrong. But let's go back to you, Leland.
Yeah, so the point about the original movie doesn't need a sequel, or like it's it stands alone. I think there's a fine point when you look at, like, even if a sequel is planned or you're leaving the door open for a sequel, that those individual movies still need to stand on their own.
Mm.
So I think, though, if you have a movie that does stand on its own and it was great, and then the fans are kind of clamoring for more, and even if it is driven by greed, they want to make a sequel, where do you draw the line then? Because, like, I mean, and if that sequel turns out to be good, it's like, okay, good choice. But if it's bad, then it's like, why do they even make it? Like, you know what I mean? Like, at what point do you choose to or not to make a sequel? I guess if there's money involved, you're just going to do it because you're going to make money. But you know what I'm trying to say? You understand what I'm trying to get?
Yeah, no, I do.
Because, like, I don't know. Yeah, it just, they have to be able to stand on their own.
Yeah, I get that. You know, if you have a movie that doesn't stand on its own and explicitly tries to franchise build or something, and it's a bomb, that makes the movie all the worse.
Well, that's like the Hobbit trilogy. Why was that 3 movies? So dumb. And I haven't seen any of them, so I couldn't really comment
no,
on
me neither, actually.
I couldn't comment on the quality of the movies, but I don't know why that needed to be a trilogy. I've only ever heard what people say about them.
I own them. I've seen them multiple times, and they're actually... I'll discuss them a bit more in the next subsection. But, yeah, I definitely have some thoughts on why those failed. I've got a few examples here.
Right.
And, I mean, Marty, you brought up an example.
Did they really fail, though? Like, they made a ton of money.
Were they comparing them directly to The Lord of the Rings, though? And is that where they measured that failure?
Maybe, yeah.
Where I feel they failed, and again, I'll get into this, it failed in like maybe about 3, the points I brought up, but technical quality, directing and passion for it, I think was worse. Certainly focus was worse.
Okay.
Technical quality and like actual editing and putting together scenes and stuff
Right.
Really fell apart, especially with that 3rd film.
Wow. Yeah, and you know what? Inevitably, they're going to get directly compared to The Lord of the Rings.
They are.
Which, if you went and watched The Lord of the Rings now, those movies still hold up pretty good.
Yes.
Those are old movies by now.
Yeah.
Those are like early 2000s.
2001, I think.
Yeah.
Well, it seems like we're really clamoring to get to that subsection.
Let's do it.
Yeah, you know what? I wouldn't mind jumping in.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, you know, I was thinking about a couple of really bad ones, but I want to talk about a good one. And it's a trilogy, but it's also kind of expanded past the original trilogy, is the Rocky films.
Yeah.
And they're a good example of both. There's good ones and bad ones. And although you could argue that they're kind of money grabs at times, some of the newer ones have been pretty good. Like the last one, Creed, which, I mean, I would consider it a direct, continuation.
I would too.
It's Rocky 7.
It's, so it's like, the first installment of a 3rd trilogy of Rocky.
It really
movies.
is.
Yeah,
it really is.
True, yeah. But then you could argue that like Rocky 5 and Rocky 6, like one of those just didn't need to happen.
Balboa probably didn't need to happen.
I'd say Balboa should have happened
6, right?
instead of Rocky 5, probably.
Which one was 5?
5 was he just stops being a fighter and he trains like this young guy, and he pretty much starts ignoring his family, and they're poor. They lost all their money.
Oh, okay.
So at the end of Rocky 4, they lose all their money. I think Paulie or whatever wasted all. And do they have to give up their robot and their big house? Because in Rocky 3, they get a robot.
Yes, they do.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
And so in Rocky 5, they live in like the Bronx or whatever,
in
Brooklyn, and then he trains like Tommy Gunn. And then Tommy Gunn becomes successful and is like, I don't need Rocky anymore. And for some reason, they end up fighting. And they have a street fight. And Rocky was supposed to die, and then he didn't. And then he was supposed to die in Balboa, and then he didn't. And then he was supposed to die in Creed, and he didn't. So he's still there.
He's like the Energizer Bunny. He keeps going, going.
And they used to make jokes after Rocky Balboa that like in Rocky 7 in a wheelchair, but now he actually does have cancer, and he's in Rocky 7, and now Rocky 8 he's gonna be in that as 2 or Creed 2.
Creed 2.
So yeah, like that's a crazy that they're on the 3rd trilogy.
Insane.
Over like 40 years.
Insane.
Yeah, and there is such a varying degree of success in those films that you could understand why they keep making them. Like, you know, they have their ups and downs, but they keep going.
Yeah, you can kind of flip a coin and figure out whether or not you're going to make your money on it.
I like with Rocky how that Creed 2 or Rocky 8, whatever you want to call it, how, in a way, it's a direct sequel to Rocky 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Dolph Lundgren is going to fight. And it's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
Is he fighting or is he like training another
They
Russian?
got it.
No, you know what? Based off his Instagram, he's like getting in fighting shape. You see him punching and stuff. He's fighting someone, whether it's Rocky. I bet you it's going to be, Creed's son.
Yeah, but he could just be getting into fighting shape. Like, it could be a figure of speech, right?
He wants to look good on camera.
Yeah.
Possibly, I'll give you that, but I just see Dolph and Stallone, like, sharing a beer, being like, man, we gotta fight somehow in this movie.
Totally. Totally.
Whether it's they
Why the hell
fight,
not?
come on. Dolph's a cool guy. Can't wait to have him back.
I wish that Carl Weathers didn't have, like, a falling out there, where I wish they could, like, have him still in it somehow. Like, I know he's dead, but like...
Like a Force Ghost? You want a Carl Weathers Force Ghost?
Oh, man! The Force Ghost of Carl Weathers.
As like Rocky beats Drago again in Creed 2, you guys Force Ghost Carl Weathers just giving
Rocky raises his hand and then, like, his ghost hand holds it up.
I'll tell you guys, we should make movies.
We should. Just give us $120 million and we'll produce a product.
We should make scenes in movies.
That's right.
Oh, so we should be ghostwriters.
Yeah, we just tell, like, those guys, we punch up scripts.
Yeah. Okay. Let's call Abrams about Star Wars Episode 9.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want another scene where, what's the bad guy in the new Star Wars? Not Jabba the Hutt.
I was already thinking he's going to copy Return of the Jedi. Kylo Ren.
I want another scene where Kylo Ren destroys a bunch of shit. But more shit.
Yeah, literally punch it up.
Yeah.
And JJ so literally copies. There's like metal boxes etched more shit. He cuts things in more shit. He's cutting up shit.
Thanks, Abrams.
Thanks, Abrams.
Please.
What's next?
Okay, well, I want to jump in with a few movie sequels that have failed for possibly different reasons. And I said I'd bring up The Hobbit. First of all, that was supposed to be a 2-movie thing, not a third. And the third was mostly built out of cut footage and reshoots. If there is something directors need to learn, it's do not make a movie out of cut footage and reshoots.
No kidding, right?
It's never going to come out.
Isn't that filmmaking 101?
It should be. It should be, Lewin. But it isn't. I think Star Wars prequels get a lot of, they're maligned, and I think that's...
Are they critically? They must have been financially successful.
Except for 3. Yeah, they're critically maligned except for 3, which is actually, I think it's got like 83% around.
Some people like the third.
That's an interesting one where the whole trilogy is pretty much maligned. Except for the last one.
Well, that I would put under the category of less passion, in that Lucas didn't care about dialogue or story that much until the third, which I think was noticeable.
Mm-hmm.
Because he was reacting to fans?
Well, special effects. I think he was all about special effects. And here's the weird thing, like, when Lucas did the special edition trilogy in the mid-90s, like, those effects didn't look great, even at the time. Like, that was unbelievable CGI for the most part.
Yeah.
Like, you remember the new scene with Jabba the Hutt? Like, I remember seeing that as a kid in the theater being like, yeah, this looks really like, some cartoonish computer graphic thing. It just looked wrong. And it's like Lucas thinks that technology is beyond where it actually is. And, just because maybe he's got such an ego from what Industrial Light and Magic did in his first trilogy, where they did blow away the special effects.
Yeah.
So, there's that. One thing I wanted to ask you guys about, but especially Leland, is I really like the prequel, The Thing, that came out in 2010, but it's pretty critically panned as a sequel. And why? Were the expectations too high, or?
I don't know, I haven't even seen it.
You've never seen the prequel Thing?
I have not watched it.
Oh, we gotta watch that.
Yeah,
Are you kidding me?
I don't want to. I honestly don't want to.
But
it's, I don't know.
It's got Winstead in it.
Yeah, I know it has Mary Elizabeth Winstead in it. I just don't want to. The effects look fucking garbage. I don't want to sit through it. I've heard only bad. I don't want to watch it.
Well, you hear good things from me. I just
but I don't value. I don't
Bladerunner.
I don't value. I don't value your opinion whatsoever.
Oh, fuck you!
I don't know, man. And maybe I should watch it. Why would I watch Pretty Little Liars and not?
Well, because you're such a huge fan of the 1982.
I know. That's why I don't want to watch.
Okay, this will not tarnish the.
No, I'm not worried about that. But why? I feel like if I watch it, all I'm doing is giving myself rant fodder. And I think I have enough of that.
We'd all agree on that.
Then why would you keep watching Pretty Little Liars?
Because I have a fodder quota, and I'm hitting it with Pretty Little Liars.
So, what's good about that show?
Oh, Lucy Hale.
That's it?
Yeah.
That's
I mean, all the girls are attractive, and like they're not overly great actors.
But I mean, really,
Lucy Hale.
You could really just like Google image search.
Okay, you know what? No, what? Okay, what is? I'm not going to say good, but what is driving me to watch it is because I could just look up the plot and see how it ends. Because the whole thing is all this mystery. Who is A? Who is this? And who is that? And I could just look it up and see, which I actually did about season 4. I was like, I can't. I'm just looking it up. And then when I looked and I saw it, I said, you know what? I want to watch. I need to see how this fuck show plays out.
Freaking invested in this.
I am invested. Yeah. I need to see how it plays out. I want to see how because they actually 7 is the series finale. I need to see how they finished it so I can properly hate it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I need to, I don't know why. I need to see it through.
Yeah.
Like I already looked up, I looked up a pretty big spoiler, which was the stupidest fucking, but I gotta see it. It's just bad. You know what? I'm taking and exercising in poor writing. But that's what I'm doing. I'm learning what not to do in my own literature endeavors.
One thing I'm a little confused about, though. You're finishing this show.
Yeah.
Did you ever finish Dexter?
I did.
Okay, you did.
I did watch all of Dexter.
Because, like, the end of that was really bad. I know you started going up.
Yeah, I did for a while, but then... See, the problem is when I go back to shows like that, though, I have to watch from the beginning all the way through.
Yeah.
I just have to.
You know, it's tough, too, though. Because, like,
I did finish that.
I dropped out of Mad Men, like, around season 5.
Oh, see, me too.
And...
I want to finish it, but I have to watch all of it.
I know, because I don't remember anything.
No. Well, is there much to remember?
Well,
you're pretty much remembering.
There's some character nuances though.
Sure,
that make it more emotional.
Yes, but that's the thing, right? If I'm going to do it, I need to be invested in it. Meaning I got to go all the way back.
That's the problem.
But like all you're doing is you're remembering from season to season the name of their ad firm.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it. That's like the major change.
Yeah.
What were we talking about?
We were talking about trilogy.
Oh yes, the Thing prequel. Okay, let's watch it.
We'll watch it and we'll get your opinion.
And then I'll fucking bitch about it next episode.
The last note I've got on movie sequels that failed, and it's a movie I enjoyed, but I'd like to know, and I know you guys have seen it, on why it critically failed. Jurassic Park: The Lost World.
Never seen it.
What?
I'm just kidding.
Oh, jeez. Okay, man, you should be an actor.
That one's critically not acclaimed?
It got critically panned.
Oh. It's because it's a bit samey, because they go back to the island.
Well, there was cheesiness.
It's a different island,
the gymnastics,
it's a different island, okay?
Yeah, and then they also bring the
T-Rex to New York,
Yeah.
California, wherever.
I saw it in theaters as a kid, and I loved it as a kid.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I thought it was, that's weird. It's good, because it punches in a bunch of new dinosaurs, right? And bunch of new like situations with the interactions with the dinosaurs. You're not just running for your life from some raptors and stuff. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Equipment.
That's confusing.
Yeah, it was just a small note to see if you guys could shed a light.
I wanted to just quickly bring up the Matrix trilogy.
I got that too.
Yeah. Okay. There's a movie, The Matrix, that didn't need anything else after it.
So unnecessary.
Yeah, very unnecessary.
That could have been one of the best standalone films of all time.
Could it ever? Now, that is one trilogy that I don't know. Is it common for a trilogy where the first one is always usually the best one?
I think sometimes the second one's good too.
Yeah, I think
it's very common that the third one's terrible.
Yes.
Very, very uncommon that, like, episode 3, that people liked it the best, right? That's very uncommon, I think.
Yeah. Well, and I think that, in general, that's right. That, the first is usually considered the best. And I mean, I don't know if we want to announce the future little set series we're going to do. We just got to make sure we do it. But it rides along these lines. Okay, I'll just throw it out there. So Leland found... was it Leland or was it Martin?
Yeah, I linked it. It was from some other Twitter account. Who was it from? I think it was from Dyson Names. I saw it on Twitter. They put up there.
It's basically a graphic that shows a number of popular trilogies and where each film in the trilogy is considered, as far as best, worst, maybe they're equal to each other. It's not a zero-sum thing. They can all be equal or close to it. And we're going to start analyzing some of those trilogies based off that graphic and our personal thoughts. Where The Matrix, where I have trouble discussing it, because you guys are going to hang me, is I have always liked the second Matrix the best. I like Matrix Reloaded better than the original Matrix. I'd say it's about
that's a really rare
I agree
feeling,
with that.
yeah. You know what? When I left Matrix Reloaded, I was not in any way disappointed. Because especially being younger.
Yeah.
Looking back,
Sorry.
Looking back, I really liked the first one more. But at the time, I was so stoked for the third one after seeing the second one. Except for the ending. I think the ending of the second one kind of rubbed me the wrong way.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I do not recall whether or not knowing... I must have known, watching Reloaded in theaters, that they planned that it was like... It's basically a two-parter, right?
Yeah, so
Reloaded and Revolutions,
it came
like
out
the
very
same
close,
movie.
actually.
I thought they released them like 6 to 9 months after each other, right?
I think so.
I do recall that. I don't know if I knew that going in and watching it, but yeah, because it like Reloaded cliffhangs and sets up Revolutions, right? Yeah. Directly. Like they're like one movie, basically. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I don't know. I Reloaded's cool. I'll watch Reloaded anytime, but man, that original is so good.
Yeah, and in Revolutions, I enjoy it, the third one, but it is definitely the worst in my mind, and most people, almost everyone agrees.
I honestly don't really remember any of that movie. I think I've seen it once, maybe twice, other than the big mechs chain gunning some of the robots at the end, fight for Zion. That's really about it.
Oh, that is about...
Oh, and of course the Dragon Ball Z fight at the end with Neo and Smith.
Agent Smiths, yeah.
Yeah. Well, you could tell they were really trying to top that fight from the second film.
Yeah.
With him on the rooftop, which was actually a pretty cool fight.
Yeah.
You just can't beat the first one. Like that dojo fight with
Morpheus. And the fight in the subway with Smith and Neo. Fuck, that's a good fight.
And it's so cool when he gets up and he just stops the bullet. It's like, that's amazing. It gives you shivers.
Yeah.
I agree with you guys. I think that the Matrix, I mean, it's looked as, an excellent part of Hollywood, but if there was only that one film would shine that much bright.
I think so.
Followed.
I think it would be probably considered one of, if not the biggest sci-fi films of all time.
Yeah.
Yep.
But that's where I think this trilogy discussion is going to be interesting, because do these trilogies take away from the other films? And they do.
I think they do in a lot of cases, yeah.
Well, and I'm going to make an argument...
Because they undermine what made the original so good sometimes.
Yeah.
But sometimes, and this is not all the time, in fact, it's rare, the third movie does right the ship. And an example of that is Back to the Future, where the first movie's fantastic, the second movie is just an absolute mess. And then the third movie, which is in the Wild West, is pretty cool.
I disagree.
Really?
I strongly disagree. Part 3 is by far the weakest of that trilogy.
Okay, wow.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think it goes number 1, number 2 is a little bit less.
2 and 1 are really close for me.
Yeah, number 1.
I think I'd almost put 2 above 1 for myself, but 3 by far at the bottom of that list.
Yeah.
Huh. This is what's going to make these discussions so interesting.
1 for me, 2's below, but it's still great. And 3...
I like 3. 3 was nice because it was a change, for sure, right? It wasn't... I guess number 2
Number 1 and 2 go together.
They really do, and it's almost as if... I mean, I know it's all one very continuous story, and it's like happened in like 2 days. And it really is like a day of time travel for Marty, right? Marty McFly. 3, I think they made a good choice with 3 in the direction they did. I think that was a solid move, because otherwise, it just would have been samey as all get out, right? That's interesting.
No, that is interesting. I think it backs up that it's a good thing that we're going to dissect these trilogies. I think we're going to be surprised what each other's thoughts are.
Yeah, I think so too.
So that's pretty cool.
Anything you guys don't want to see a sequel to? Like a standalone film you have now where you're like, please stop.
Yeah, I've got to think about that for a moment, because a lot of the one-off films I like, I know there was never going to be a sequel to them anyways.
Why? Because they made zero money?
No, just because they're films that could never be adapted to have a sequel no matter what.
Like what?
Okay, like the one that's in my mind right now, it's one of my favorite war movies. You guys haven't seen it for sure. You know the movie that's, there's all those memes of Hitler getting mad at something?
Oh, yes.
Okay, that movie's called Downfall. And that's like probably my top 10 for sure, all-time movies. But you're not ever going to make a sequel to that because Hitler's dead and it's a one-off war movie. But that's my whole point. I'm mentally going, okay, Field of Dreams, one of my other favorites. We're never going to make a sequel to Field of Dreams.
But what you're doing is you're going in your mind's Rolodex through your favorite movies and picking out what you don't want sequelized. You're not looking at what movies, good or bad, warrant one or do not warrant one. You know what I'm saying?
That's fair enough, but there's just so many movies I've seen over the years, it's hard for me to...
Yeah, I guess the question really is, who cares if some movie you don't give a shit is getting a sequel?
Yeah.
It really should apply. You're right. It should apply to your favorite one. So yeah, that's totally valid. You're right.
Well, I've got one. I've got Drive. That's a really great film with Ryan Gosling that, very critically acclaimed. Never make a sequel. There's no point in following up with those characters. Just leave it alone.
They did. It's Baby Driver.
Oh, what is it?
That's what that is? No. Leland.
That's a prequel.
Oh, Leland is a pretty little liar.
Wow.
He's learning too well.
I'm a pretty little liar.
Everything's...
He's very good at deadpanning this shit, isn't he? Yeah.
But what I do want to see is another 21 Jump Street sequel. I want 23 Jump Street Men in Black.
Yes.
Yes.
23 Jump Street MIB. Yeah.
But you know what? That's a good series to bring up because they got to really go for something crazy like that. You just can't do them on another normal cop mission.
No,
for the film.
It worked perfect for the sequel because they acknowledged it and it was hilarious.
Yeah, it did. They did, and they didn't cross the line,
No.
right, of being too acknowledgy.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna add a Y onto everything now, and it's gonna become an adjective or a verb.
Yeah, when I'm a little
adjective.
Grammar lessons with the T-Hud podcast.
Nothing for me really comes to mind. Can't really think of, because everything gets sequels.
Never make a sequel to Ghostbusters. Oh,
yeah.
So I guess that was a sequel. It's not even a reboot.
Well, I think to Sicario, which I believe, did we all watch that together?
You did.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're making a sequel to that, but Denis Villeneuve, the original director, he's not doing it, and basically the whole production crew's changed. The actors are the same. They're dropping Emily Blunt, and I like the way they're going in the story. It's going to get darker and focus on Josh Brolin's character and Benicio del Toro's character. But the fact that you're losing everyone who made the first movie, that puts a lot of fear.
Yeah. So it's like they're hoping on the connection to the name alone to drive its excitement.
I just think you're taking so much risk with tone and just it feeling wrong.
That's weird.
They're making a sequel to Live, Die, Repeat as well.
What?
Yes, they are.
I was just thinking of Edge of Tomorrow. Which is the official name now?
Live, Die, Repeat.
Nah, you sure?
Yeah,
I thought it was the other way around.
No, Edge of Tomorrow was the first name.
And
And then they changed it to
I was
Live,
literally
Die, Repeat.
just thinking about that.
Yeah.
I was going to bring that up.
Okay, well, if we're wrong, we'll put it in the show notes.
Whatever. It doesn't need a sequel, for sure.
No.
Why would they?
First one's good.
I liked the first one. Yeah, it was cool.
Okay, so I watched the first one. I was with my wife. We were having a big cheat meal. I ate a extra large pizza, a pack of Timbits, and a cookie.
And a cookie to finish it off.
Would you like a cookie?
Big pizza, box of Timbits, and a cookie.
I did not feel well at the end of that film.
And you still enjoyed
I still enjoyed it.
Well, there you go. That's...
I want a cookie. I want a pot. Now there's a film that doesn't need a sequel.
Oh, man. Hook is a great movie.
It is. It's
never seen
fantastic.
it.
Oh, it's worth watching.
No.
It's really
never
worth
seen
watching.
Indiana Jones either.
How are you in a podcast and you've never seen Indiana
Hey, everyone's
Jones?
got their blind spots. You don't LARP.
No, and I've never seen E.T. either.
I don't think. Who cares?
Okay.
I've seen E.T.
Yeah, I've seen E.T.
And I don't read comic books ever.
No, you read Watchmen.
I have read Watchmen. That's the only.
You're kind of dead weight. A lot less dead weight.
I was about to say.
But dead weight now.
I'm still an anchor holding us down.
So, who here listening plays World of Warships? Raise your hand. Listener?
Going once?
Huh?
Going twice? God.
Well, I think we're kind of...
Yeah, I think
we've shot this trilogy in the neck and it's dying.
Yeah. So, Are we going to wrap it up? Can I do the end of the show stuff?
Well,
okay.
Okay, well, we're going to get back to this topic again.
Oh, yeah, it's going to come up. This is like an ever-expanding thing.
Yeah, it's going to be a new bonus
topic.
Segment, yeah. We're going to pick a trilogy, and we're going to dissect that trilogy and argue about it, and Leland will get mad, and we'll defend it, and Moby will have some
awkward thing
that has nothing to really do with it, but it'll be about something. And that'll be coming in the near future, listener.
Bet you can't wait.
Woo! Okay. Great. So, check out the show notes if you need to for some of the links. Like, honestly, go check out that LARPing YouTube series. I will find it. I will link it. Go to ttpopcast.wordpress.com. And also, check out our Facebook page. Like us, leave us some comments. Tell us which installment of this trilogy is your favorite. Leland, the amazing Stand on Its Own original. Marty, the almost as good sequel, but probably unnecessary. Or Moby, the terrible, terrible trilogy. The third installment of this trilogy.
Really, I see myself more of the T2 of the trilogy.
Fine, I'll take the Terminator. Sorry, Rise of Machines.
Rise of the Moby Machines.
Anyways, that's been the T-Hud Podcast. This is Leland.
This is Moby.
And this is Marty.
Thanks, listener.